Did you know that infection causes 1 in 8 deaths among dialysis patients? How would you feel if you learned that a loved one with chronic kidney disease contracted an infection during dialysis treatment, which may have been avoided if a kidney specialist was on staff to oversee the hemodialysis technicians? Earlier this year, my partner entered dialysis treatment, and it terrified me to learn the statistic. Currently, there's about 80,000 patients in California with some form of chronic kidney disease, and some patients depend on dialysis treatment to live. Dialysis patients are prone to infections that can lead to more severe illnesses or even death. According to a May 30th, 2018 article on Cal Matters, more than 10,000 dialysis patients died in California in 2016. That is a 2.5% rise from the previous year. Infection and cardiac problems are the leading causes of death among kidney failure patients. Dialysis is a dangerous procedure, and yet there is currently no regulation or law that requires the presence of a physician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant while it is taking place. During the November 2022 election, a proposition was put forth that would have required a doctor or nurse to be on staff and available during dialysis treatments for patients, among other regulations. This is the third year that a dialysis regulation bill has been put forward for a vote in California, and unfortunately, each year it has failed. Today, I'm going to start by going over some of the common problems that can happen at dialysis clinics. Then I will share some stories about the harms that can occur as a result of the current lack of regulations straight from dialysis patients. After that, I will explain how Prop 29 would have been very beneficial to the patients, and lastly, how it was that this life-saving proposition was allowed to fail. First, I'll cover some of the complications that can arise at dialysis clinics. With no physician, nurse practitioner, or physician assistant available on staff or via telehealth, patients are more at risk of complications stemming from dialysis treatment. Dialysis access provides bacteria and other microorganisms the opportunity to enter the bloodstream. Errors in dialysis can cause harm and death. While dialysis machines are rarely the cause of death, human error while operating these machines or poor communication among caregivers are common errors that can happen. The requirements to become a dialysis technician only require a 12 to 18 month certification program and a certification exam. I'm not saying that these people are incompetent, but I know that I would feel much more confident if I knew that a doctor or at least a nurse practitioner was on hand in case of an emergency. Another common error that can occur at a clinic is medication or treatment errors, which would be reduced with medically certified experts on staff and present. According to a 2015 article in the American Society of Nephrology, a study found that omission of an ordered medication was the most common error, representing 69% of all errors. Ricardo Lara of the Mercury News writes, "The state of California has documented cases of patients and workers being exposed to hepatitis B and tuberculosis in clinics. These incidents could be reduced through safer staffing levels." Now I will share some personal stories from patients who have to attend dialysis. As the law stands, there are people who are experiencing severe medical consequences as a result of their dialysis that could have been prevented were a doctor or nurse practitioner present. I mentioned before that my partner is in dialysis treatment and that he has already experienced errors made by these clinics and the dialysis technicians during his treatment. My partner Andres was told by his doctor that his treatment would require that he be connected to the dialysis machine 4 hours, 3 times a week. Recently, during one of his treatments, the technician came in to stop the treatment at the 3-hour mark. When Andres questioned why it was being stopped, the technician was adamant that it was only for 3 hours. It wasn't until Andres was completely disconnected from the machine that the technician double-checked the treatment schedule and realized his mistake. Had a doctor or a nurse been on hand, this error could have been possibly avoided. When the mistake was caught, the technician gave him the option of getting reconnected to finish the session, but disconnecting from the machines takes a whole process. Dialysis physically and mentally exhausts Andres. The last thing he wanted to think about is how to fix this technician's error. That should be left up to the specialist, not to the patient. So he decided not to continue with that last hour. But should he really have had to make the decision or choice for the technician? These patients depend on the care and treatment that they receive at these facilities, and their care shouldn't be entrusted to technicians without doctors or nurse practitioners being present. In the same article from the Mercury News, Irene Botello, a patient from Fresno, describes how, after finishing her treatment, she was left unattended in the lobby of her clinic where she fainted while waiting for her ride home. The only thing that kept her from hitting the ground was the buckle on her wheelchair. A doctor would certainly be more equipped to attend to any serious medical issues that could have arisen had she fainted. Another personal account from the same article is from Vincent Gonzalez, a patient from Los Angeles who says that he witnessed a fellow patient go into cardiac arrest and die because workers were overwhelmed and could not respond timely. Okay, so we have reviewed the dangers and complications that may arise during dialysis. Now I will explain how Prop 29 would have made the overall dialysis process safer for the patient. As we have already heard from the accounts, the dialysis process can very easily go wrong. As reported by voterguide.sos.ca.gov, here's what Prop 29 would have done. First, it would have required a physician or nurse practitioner or physician assistant to be in the clinic whenever patients are being treated. Second, as dialysis patients are prone to infections that can lead to more severe illnesses or even death, it would have required clinics to report data on infections to the state so problems can be identified and solved to better protect patients. Third, it would have required dialysis providing corporations to get approval by the state before closing clinics or reducing any services. Despite how much safer these regulations make the dialysis process, unfortunately, Prop 29 did not pass. Its failure to pass was a result of a campaign to convince voters that more regulations would have negative consequences across the medical field. As reported by voterguide.sos.ca.gov, Robert E. Wales, president of the California Medical Association, states, Prop 29 would make our growing physician shortage even worse by taking doctors away from hospitals and clinics where they are needed, increasing wait times and reducing capacity to deal with other medical emergencies. However, this argument misses the mark. The reality is that corporate owners and industry executives strongly oppose Prop 29 because it would have forced them to provide better working and staffing conditions for their employees to improve patient care. Dialysis is a life-saving process, and corporate interests, however, see it as a huge moneymaker. They use these tactics to invoke fear by threatening to close clinics if Prop 29 passes, and they are held accountable to higher standards. In summary, had this measure passed, it could have put in place some real life-saving changes for chronic kidney disease patients. Today, I reviewed some of the complications that can arise during dialysis process. Next, I shared some personal stories from patients who have to attend dialysis. Then I went over the strong points of Prop 29 and how it would improve the quality of care for dialysis patients. And lastly, I discussed some of the arguments that were made against this proposition. I hope to see a similar measure on the ballot next election, and hopefully you were able to pull some information from my speech today. Thank you.